and welcome to the Wellness Agents. Thriving in a changing world, and there is always more to learn, is what we stand for. I'm Karen Mazzella, and I've got Caroline van der May, who is a naturopath in the Bunbury area, actually Australind, and her business name is Healing Solutions, and you can find information about her healingsolutions.com.au. And we're here to talk to you today about further on of flower essences, but more specifically what most people understand as rescue remedy. So hi, Caroline.
Hello, Karen. Great to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
And you're welcome, and thank you for bringing your expertise on this subject, which you have been studying for and using for how many years?
Probably close to 35 years
Yeah.
now.
So
So,
a
yeah.
lot of depth to that knowledge,
Mm.
and I can certainly vouch for the solutions that you've made up for me in the past. But I really was wanting to go towards rescue remedy because in conversations with you, I could see that my set of Bach flower remedies didn't have rescue remedy, it had revival remedy. And then another set that I became a lucky owner of, Flower Essence Society, they called the very same mixture five flower remedy or essences or something.
Yep.
And so I put to you, like they've all got the same stuff in it. Can you explain, please, what that's all about?
So that started many years ago, and I dare say the original formula was made by Dr. Bach, and he put this combination of five flower essences together and called it Rescue Remedy. So one of the companies that was producing the Bach flower essences decided that they owned the right to essences and that they could produce them. And this went through a huge court case, and the outcome of the court case was that what Bach wanted was that everybody could make their own essences and that that was our right. He wanted people to know how to make essences. So the courts allowed other manufacturers come on board and make their own essences. However, the Rescue Remedy became trademarked to one company only. And so anyone else who produced a set of Bach essences could produce them as Bach essences, but the combination of the five essences that is commonly called Rescue Remedy had to be classified as something different by each of the companies. So one of the companies calls it Comfort something, and they all have their own names, sort of indicating that it's for rescuing us when we need help. So,
Okay.
yeah,
But essentially does the same job, but it's just that they're just not allowed to use Rescue Remedy as a trade name.
yep,
Okay.
correct,
Well,
correct.
that makes it clearer.
And
And
to
so,
be fair, each company has a little bit different energy when they make essences. So you do find that there's subtle differences between the different brands of essences that most people maybe don't realize or don't notice on a regular basis, only when you have two or three sets in front of you and you can feel energy that you would actually notice those differences.
and so would they be like slightly different, given that it's made up of five different flowers? Could they be focusing on, and we'll be getting into the flowers shortly, but they might give more emphasis of one flower to another, or they're all equal dosage
Yep, they're all
in the
equal
mix.
doses. Yep. So what it can be is the environment that each
Uh,
plant is grown in might be just that little bit different. Maybe one had to struggle a little bit more. Maybe one had more nutrients than another. All of those things, the phase of the moon or the phase of the sun or the amount of sunlight that day, all makes a difference when you're working with energy. So there's always subtle differences between them. Even a manufacturer who makes one essence, a batch this year is going to be slightly different to the batch the next year because of that conditions. The
I
energy essence
guess
is going
also even the energy of the people making it.
true.
And
Absolutely.
where it can,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And you have to be, like, as someone who's made some essences, you have to be in a really pure place yourself when you make essences. You can't go in there feeling angry or upset or things like that. However, interestingly, I have my book. What did I do with my book, Karen? It talked about how, oh, here it is right next to me. And I was just, because I was looking at Rescue Remedy and talking about it here, I thought I'd just read this little bit. So Bach himself, when he went out to discover essences, would often go into the mental state a day or two before he found the essences. So it talks about, as his work progressed, he realized his own senses were becoming more refined. For several days before he found a remedy, he would intensely experience the physical and mental symptoms of the disease that this remedy was to cure. Then he would go out into the fields and find the appropriate healing flower. He would place a petal or flower in his palm, on his tongue, and experience the effects of the plant on his mind and body. And that's how he knew what each of the essences were for. But you can imagine that, if you go out and you've had a stressful morning driving to a place where the essences are, you would have some of that energy in you when you were making the essences and things like that, just as Bach did when he made the essences and the plant cleared it. So, how you feel as a manufacturer making each of the essences would have an influence on the energy of an essence as well.
Yeah, it all adds up.
Mm, yes.
So, how long ago did he put this remedy together?
That's a good question. I haven't found the actual answer to that, but I can say it was in the 1930s that he started making essences.
Oh, okay.
And he started with three and went back to his medical practice and took those. And the results he got from that was enough for him to basically say, I'm going to close my door on my medical background and move forward with this new line of work.
So the best part of 90 years anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So that, and they've stood the test of time. What's really fascinating about flower essences is they've never had a lot of media coverage. In fact, when Bach started, he was given quite a hard time by the medical authorities. And so they've never really, for something to last that distance of time, without a lot of backing of huge dollars and money and also advertising space. You probably see Rescue Remedy being advertised probably the last 10 years. But when I first started using it, you'd never see an advert for it anywhere. It certainly wasn't in the Coles or Woolies that you see it these days. So it's
yeah.
really come a long way in the last few years.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty surprising when you started to see it in grocery stores that, for the
More,
most part, don't really sell much that's
yeah,
very particularly healthy. But yeah.
yeah, that's true.
And so the stock bottles that we can purchase,
Yep,
they've got preservative in them
yep.
in the form of like brandy or some sort of alcohol and that
Usually,
sort of
usually
stuff.
brandy. Brandy was what Bach started the preserving process with because he felt that it aligned with the plants he was using as his essences.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
And
was
so does that give it a very long shelf life? Like,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
So basically, in a bottle of essences, like this is my bottle of Five Flower Remedy, um, you've got alcohol and the essences. So you've got an energetic imprint of the flower in there. Technically, brandy doesn't go off and neither does energy.
Mm.
However, we're required by, I think it's a TGA, to put expiry dates on bottles, and I think they give homeopathics and flower essences 7 year life.
Oh, wow. 7 years. That's a good
Yep,
shelf life. Yeah.
it is. So definitely got a good shelf life. At the end of the day, if you're using your stock bottle to make essences with, there's no reason for it to go off. If you're deciding that, oh, I need some rescue remedy and using your dropper in your own mouth, then there's contamination and issues like that. And that's a total other ball game.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you're using it just as a practitioner or as mum and you're making dosage bottles, whether you're putting the drops into a water bottle or into a cart, or into a bottle to make up a mix of essences, the essences will last a lifetime basically.
And when would so you just said then that it's okay for kids.
Yep.
But like when would you think as a practitioner you'd benefit from Rescue Remedy? You know, like when would you make that as a professional decision for someone or
Rescue Remedy is such an interesting remedy because it's a blend, and so you can use it on its own, or you can add it to other blends that you're making.
okay.
But Rescue Remedy is a good remedy for anyone who's going through an acute situation. And that's probably one of the keys to its use is it's an acute remedy. It shouldn't be used for something long term. If someone's coming back in and saying, I want another bottle of Rescue Remedy, we really need to address what's going on with the person rather than keep giving them Rescue Remedy. So
Get to
by
more core stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
By acute things, I mean you've had an accident, you're going in for an exam, you're going for a job interview, you've got a hospital or a dental appointment, maybe you've had a row with a partner or a boss, and you're feeling out of your body, you're feeling disconnected, you're feeling out of control, you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling like you can't do anything, your world's been turned upside down. You know, people in war zones and things like that. They're needing rescue remedy, but they're also needing something more. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
It's
how,
not, it doesn't cover everything, but it's, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And it's also if we've had, if a child's had a fall or if a child's had, first day of school and they're really terrified of going to school, or there's a bully that they're dealing with and they need a bit of, that confidence to get themselves back into their bodies so that they can deal with the situation. Rescue Remedy is really amazing. The combination of essences in there is really great.
So that's what we'll move into now because we haven't discussed the actual flower essences that have been combined to create Rescue Remedy.
Yep.
And that is first one, we're going in alphabetical order, is cherry plum.
Yep. So
So, yeah,
cherry plum is for that feeling of out of control. So it can be the person who feels like there's a time bomb ticking in their head about to go off, or the person who feels they're so angry they're about to hurt themselves or someone else, and and this anger comes out of nowhere, and it's really good for helping calm us down. So when I run my courses, I do these little cartoon characters of people who typify this situation. So here's this person, it's like this time bomb. And they say, I've had enough, I'm going to kill someone. And I'm sure we've all had that moment. Sometimes it's PMT, or sometimes one of the kids have just done something that's just tipped us over the edge, or sometimes it's frustration with the boss at work, or, all sorts of things can do it. And I've actually put in here a picture of how beautiful the cherry plum is,
mm,
bringing us back to that peaceful state. So, yeah, so cherry plum, if you can relate to that feeling of being out of control of your body and something violent is you're going to do or participate in, cherry plum is a really good essence to take.
now subject to actual pronunciation, is it clematis or
Clematis. Yep,
clematis? Yep.
yep. So clematis is almost the exact opposite. It's for that spacey feeling. So instead of being really fired up, here's this person that's sort of almost dreamy and not really there, you know, um, and they're out of their body and they're disconnected and everything is in a bit of a dream state. And here's this person. So I explain it like this. I was dreaming and thinking about what would happen when, what would happen when I win the lotto? What would happen when the magic fairy comes in and grants me all my wishes? And they're thinking about this and they're banging into the table because they are not seeing what's there around them. They're not very grounded in their bodies. So,
So
and
quite disassociated sort of sense. Yeah.
yes, yes, very much so. Very much dreamy, the daydreamer.
Yeah.
And if we look at the bush of the clematis, it gives that sort of halo effect of there's nothing defined about it. It's this beautiful, gorgeous flower, but it's all, soft and misty.
And then we move on to, I've always thought it was impatience, but I think you say it differently to me.
Yes, I call it impatiens, and I don't know why, because it is impatiens, and it's not the impatiens we grow in our gardens, um, which have some of the characteristics of the impatiens. It's a what do you call it? Before they've hybridized, before they've cultivated it. So the original
Ah,
sort of impatiens that they use. Remember, this is going back almost 90 years.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
what you had available hasn't
What
been.
they call it, heritage type or something like
Yes,
that, I think it
it's,
was.
before it's all been cultivated and made into pretty things. One of the things with the impatience is it's like the seeds sprout everywhere and go everywhere. And impatience is really what the impatiens or impatience is for. That, don't you realize we're in a hurry? Come on, we've got to be quicker, we've got to be there, and they're in their heads going, come on, hurry up, we've got to be there, I'm going to be late. And the person who they said, just give it to me, I'll do it myself. It's going to be much quicker if I do it. You can tell I never get into the state of, oh,
I
okay.
don't know anyone like that.
No, me neither. And there's a picture of the flower. So you can see there's some minor resemblance to what we call impatiens here, but
Yeah,
it's very different to what we would classify as
okay.
as that flower. So yes, and I think that's what happens sometimes when we're in that shock trauma stage. Is like we're again out of our body and not connected to it, but we're in this hurry of, oh,
Just get
something's
it
got to be
done.
done, and yeah, yeah, yep.
Mm. And then we move on to rock rose.
It's one of two roses that are in the Bach remedy range is rock rose, and it's really for the terror and trauma of the acute situation, and it's the person who is in a situation goes, I'm so terrified I can't move. We talk about fight and fight, for flight and fight with the adrenal, stress situation. Well, this is a freeze, you know, and you see it often with animals, and you're seeing it more and more with humans now. We never used to see it as much as we do now, where the person's basically immobilized because of what's gone on. So here's this person, they're in that dazed state, and they're going, I'm terrified. I just can't move, so they're all bashed up. They just don't know what to do. They're in shock, uh, probably concussed in some cases, and really out of their body. Which also brings me to saying that we do have to be wary about using things like rescue remedy or rock rose when people are in those states, because we shouldn't really be giving them anything by mouth.
Yep,
And one of the ways I is put it on a pulse point. So we don't always have to give rescue remedy by mouth. So
it's
if
good
you're
info. Mm.
concerned about someone in the situation they are, if they're likely to have medical tests or breathalyzer tests, please don't be giving rescue remedy by mouth. Put it on a pulse point, put it on the navel, put it on the third eye area, their crown, the soles of their feet. Any of those areas are really quite good for application.
Have you ever added like drops to moisturizer or something like that?
There's rescue remedy creams you can get already
Oh,
made
true,
up.
true. Yeah,
So I've used those rather than make my own creams.
yeah.
But you certainly can. Yes, it is another option. Um,
And
and
it's a good point. You wouldn't want to be taking it oral because there is a bit of brandy in there. It's not enough to get you drunk, but it might be enough to flip a
Have you had straight away a breathalyzer? Yes, it's going to show. I know from past experience, not myself, but a friend. She said, "Oh, okay." And at the end, the police officer looked at the bottle of brandy, a bottle of flour. Oh, God, oh, okay. Let's just wait a few minutes, and redid it, and it was fine. But it's also, like one of the situations I didn't mention about rescue remedy is it's really great in the birthing room,
ah,
for the mum, but also once a bab's been delivered. And I recommend giving just a couple of drops on the crown and when available around the navel area for the bab.
yeah,
Really good for helping bring the baby into the world, so
helping them to ground. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and be here. And beautiful yellow, delicate, amazing flower when you see it. So
Okay.
that's rock rose.
Rose. And the last one is Star of Bethlehem. Now,
And
I find Star of Bethlehem, even when before I'd been introduced to the flower essences like you know them, the way I was taught in kinesiology, Star of Bethlehem actually came up a lot.
And I would say it's a star essence in the rescue remedy and five flower formula. It really is the key to the shock and trauma. It's amazing the case histories that have come out from using um, the Star of Bethlehem. There's a story I have that's come out of one of the flower essence journals about a Vietnam veteran who'd had a huge scar through his abdomen from a shrapnel wound that had not healed. And I think it was like something like 20 years. And they applied Star of Bethlehem, and the scar tissue shrunk. But not only did it shrink, it became more subtle and things like that. So quite amazing. It's something, so whilst it's for shock and trauma and really amazing at what it does that way, it also is really good for past shocks and traumas, no matter how long ago they are. And the other thing it's really good for is, you have someone who's going along in life and they're coming and seeing you or me, or they're doing all the right things and they just never get well. So, Star of Bethlehem is really good for realigning them. And this is my picture for Star of Bethlehem. And it was terrible. They're talking about it was terrible. I jumped out of my skin. And what happens is we basically, when something terrible is happening, we jump out of our body because we don't want to be in our physical body. So on an energetic level, we're trying to save ourselves. So we're outside our body watching what comes in. Because it's been so terrible, our body's gone, whoop, and we go back in, but we don't go back in and realign properly. And Star of Bethlehem helps that realignment process to take place. So it's a really, really important essence. And sometimes I'll give people it as a starting remedy. Sometimes I'll make it rescue remedy. Sometimes it depends on what I feel drawn to do with the person. Sometimes I'll use rescue remedy and sometimes I'll just use Star of Bethlehem and get them to put a few drops of it on their feet at night. Because a lot of people are troubled by flashbacks and dreams and have difficulty sleeping and things like that. So I find it a very useful remedy to use that. Beautiful, beautiful white flower.
I was going to say it's got a beautiful flower. Yeah.
Six petals, and they talk about the six petals in the trilogy and joining heaven and earth together. So, yes, a really amazing and beautiful essence to use. And so there's two in here that are really good starting remedies for people too. So, Star of Bethlehem is often one, if people have talked about a lot of shock or trauma, or you feel shock or trauma has been a lot of part of your life or the person you're treating's life, Star of Bethlehem is really good. But patience or impatience is really good for that person who's always in a hurry. And I think part of our life today is all about hurry, hurry. And, people have got used to going in the medical system and I go into my doctor and I get a tablet and I feel better today or tomorrow. Whereas the natural system is it takes time to reverse what's gone on in your body and to bring about healing. And so the empathians helps to slow that mental thing we have in our head about, well, I should be better. I went to see the naturopath yesterday, surely I should feel better today. And don't think about 20 years of hard living that has driven me to this state and needs time to reverse. So both of those are really good. And the other thing with empathians is it's a catalyst remedy. So, and so Star of Bethlehem. So if you put them in a mix, the mix will work quicker or faster or on a different level than some of the other essences
Okay.
that might be in there.
Good to know.
And it's really interesting. I've got my earbuds in, but I don't have it connected. So I'm going to disconnect them now.
Oh dear. So, there's so much to talk about with flower essences. I think we'll probably wind this bit up because there's a lot of information, and I would recommend, I plan on re-listening to this later too, because although it's not necessarily new information for me. You don't pick everything up in the first sweep, sort of thing.
This is
And
true.
I was first introduced to Rescue Remedy when my father died back in 1997. And like when you are grieving, you want as many different tools on
Yes.
board to be able to cope with that because the
And
other
and going to funerals and things like that, Rescue Remedy is brilliant.
but putting someone that's special to you to rest is not easy. And like, and many people, I'm no orphan on that scale as far as most people have had some sort of loss that they've got to work through. um Caroline, I think we'll come back and like at some point get into a discussion of how to care for your flower essence remedies if you own them.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Like
Yep.
how to store them. But if definitely we're going to be um, discussing a lot more than what we've done so far. So, is there anything you wanted to add around Rescue Remedy at this point?
It's often people's first introduction to flower essences.
Yeah,
Right. Because it's got such a wide range of application. And often when I'm talking to people about flower essences, I'll say, "Oh, have you used Rescue Remedy?" And people often go, "Oh, yes, I did." Or someone gave it to me when I went to for an exam or a funeral or
yeah.
something like that. So people often have their own story. This book here, which I think was written in, I should have a look at that, in the 1970s. 19, not sorry, first published in 1986, is called Flower Remedies to the Rescue. And it's just talks about rescue remedy, nothing else. It's only
Allow a
just
whole book
talks
to it.
about,
Yeah,
yep. And you can imagine how many chapters they could add to this now. So it's also useful not just for humans, but for animals. Like I know a lot of dogs get really nervous with thunderstorms. So, you could put a bowl of water there for your dog with some rescue remedy in it. And
and we're coming up to Australia Day, so fireworks can do the same thing. Yeah,
absolutely, yes. And one of the things I'll often say is if you're treating dogs or pets in general, is to go give them two bowls so that they have the option. Give them one with rescue remedy and one that's normal water or normal food. And they know what they need.
yeah.
So, you
Give
know,
them choice.
yep.
Yeah. Thank you for remembering to include that.
And,
Um,
and one more thing, if you're
yep,
taking it as a dose, you normally do 4 drops.
4 drops. And
Yep.
how many times a day?
So you can take rescue remedy every 10 minutes if you're really needing it.
Okay.
So it because it's that acute stage. And
Yeah.
if you're taking it that often, you'll find you get to a certain stage, maybe after 6 or 8 doses, you go, oh, okay, I can feel something shifted in me. And if you're needing it that often, what's probably a better idea is to grab a drink bottle or a water bottle or a glass of water and put your 4 drops in that and keep sipping that at a regular basis.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So also I did want to say to everyone out there is that coming up in May 23, wellness agents are holding their second The Real Health Show here in Bunbury. And both Carolina and I will be there if you want to approach and ask questions on that level. I would probably redirect you to Caroline if you approach me on it because she's by far the expert. But I've been working with it. I've developed a protocol within my kinesiology to use the flower essences since Caroline's opened my eyes to the depth of what they can do for people. But also, when I'm doing kinesiology, I do like to send people home with something that helps continue the process that they've been on the table for and give them the element of control over how they manage their health. But that was I really enjoyed that, Caroline, as far as the information that you had to share. And I know you've got a lot more information, even around rescue remedy, etc. One question, where are the plants? Are they Britain or are they Europe or are they both?
So because Bach was the developer of them, they all came from most of them were in Wales. but most
Well,
were
okay.
in that bottom section of England, Wales.
Yep.
He spent a lot of time in Wales and what's the name of the place? Kramer, I think, was the name of the place he lived in. So that's where a lot of them stayed from. There is one essence, so there's Serato, which originated from China, and it's one for helping us trust our intuition. And Bart for a long time looked for something alternative that was more British flour and could not find anything. He also had made the first environmental essence in rock water. So that's that essence is made from water from a healing well or stream. So apart from that, they're all native to United Kingdom.
Not that that makes a difference for how they work on the individual, because, like we said last time in the talk, um, within kinesiology, I was introduced to Australian bush flowers, bark remedy, and also desert alchemy, which is Arizona desert, or flower essence society is Californian. And so it's really nice to, and then there's some imports on some of those as well. Like I know the Australian bush flowers has a few imports that aren't Australian. Am I right with that?
Ian White has definitely added in environmental essences that are not
Yeah,
from Australia,
yeah.
from different healing spots around the world.
So we'll wind this up now. And
That's been
thank you
great.
again. Thank you again, Caroline, because
Thank you.
it's really nice to have something that is not going to have the side effect is that you start to feel better. It's not got the impact on the liver or the kidneys or like a lot of mainstream medications can do. And it can be alongside those medications. Is that true? As far as you're
Yeah,
not going to be
yeah,
having contraindications to
yeah.
um, more mainstream care that you might be receiving. So it's just nice to have something that you can do for you that is supporting your road to wellness.
That's so
So
true.
again, thriving in a changing world, and man, have we got a changing world happening. Every day in 2026 has brought about something fairly big. And there's always more to learn. And some of this stuff is really old. And, we might have heard our grandmothers talking about it, but it's kind of fallen by the wayside because it was considered. I know my migrant father-in-law, his mum was village Italy, and man, did she know her herbs and remedies. And he thought they were a bit of hogwash because he had subscribed to the Western medicine model, which is fine, that's his business. But it's like we didn't need to chuck out the old knowledge. And sometimes finding an old book in a secondhand shop that might have been printed in the 50s might have some really valuable information in it. So I shouldn't have told you that because I'm looking for those sort of books. But yeah, so thriving in a changing world, and there's always more to learn, is what Wellness Agents stands for. We do have our Real Health Show Expo. The inaugural one last year was so much fun and very successful. And so stay tuned because we'll continue to promote that until May. And thanks again, Caroline.
Thank you,
And
Karen.
I'll
It's
see
been
you
great.
next time.
For sure. Bye.
Bye.
This content is created for informational purposes only. Always seek the guidance of a qualified health professional with any questions you may have regarding your personal health.